minimize button, okay? All clips must be edited together in a single 60-second MP4, and that's what I mean by that. Typically, I get a lot. You've got ideas, you've got ways to quickly simulate, and you can get up to a lot of motion quick. And we'll talk about prop distribution in the same way, because if you can go get an FBX, can you get that motion out of it too? Absolutely. Let me show you. Because y'all remember this, right? We didn't talk about LUTs yet, but we'll talk about LUTs today. Remember this scene from last week? Okay, I threw a couple LUTs on it. Now it's a security cam. But now I got my ADAT going. Right? Now, let's talk about this. Because I don't need a bunch of different cameras either. Couple of cameras, couple of keyframes is really all you need. And I think I have one small keyframe on this, just kind of pulling back, because this is my security cam and you can see evidence of a path. Right? Right. Okay. And I told you this is non-uniform. This is stormtroopers getting off work, right? Maybe they're going to get in the ADAT, whatever. I don't care about your story so much on this one. I care about the application, right? So I just threw the snow train in here and I went and got an ADAT. Now, if you want to go to somewhere like Sketchfab and search for FBX in your scene that actually has animation. Let's see, Imperial, AT, so there's one. So, if you haven't figured this out about Sketchfab yet, anytime that you have this little piece of film strip, that indicates, at a glance, that's an animated avatar, asset, whatever. I've got animated, alligators and sharks and stuff that I've put in some of the mazes before to, stop people from getting through the maze, that kind of thing. But let's say that your creative this week requires that you want some Star Wars or whatever, okay? And literally you have the time to pick whatever you want and apply this literally in one setting. Especially if you're using things like prop distribution in the same way that you're using scatter for your crowd scene, okay? So, suffice to say, if I wanted to get this animation out, I also can look down here and click on this, and this actually has walk and shoot. It also has walk, and it also has this animation, trip and fall, right? So if I wanted to Luke Skywalker that, right, and take it down, I could. Probably need a snow speeder, right? But animated content is very simple to bring in and then also distribute as a prop. I'm gonna show you what's up. Because all you gotta do is download that. I've already downloaded this one, but you can download any animated prop. So if you're looking for something like I did a shark, like I said, but if I did shark FBX, now I know that any of these sharks that I hover over are going to have animations associated with them, and of course if I click on downloadable, then I know I can download those, pull them down, and actually I don't have to animate that bone structure at all. Okay? So can it be organic, like a fish, or can it be something very hard surface, like an ADAT? Yes, right? But I'm gonna show you, and you can download whatever, as long as you're downloading something that you know has animation, and that's an FBX, okay? You can convert it if it's a GLTF or whatever, but for this, I'm just gonna show you a couple of other options that we have. Now, I'm also gonna go to my visual tab, and just for now, I'm gonna turn off all my LUTs. We'll talk about those in a minute. Because that's gonna look more like probably what your scene looks like now, and also I can turn off actually all my post effects at once if I want. We'll talk about layering some of that stuff, and also my tune shader. Okay, so this is what I'm looking at. Now, for my preview, obviously I haven't even put material on this one yet, so I'll bring it back in, and I'm gonna delete that one, but I'm gonna show you how easy it is. And again, I've only got the snow scene there and, a bad sky dome. So there's only two assets in the scene outside of my corridor and my path and my actual characters, right? So it's not complex at all. But if I go back over here to my downloads and I wanted to bring in my Imperial Walker, I've already unzipped all this, but I have that local, and here's my FBX, right? Now, based on what we learned last week, if I drag and drop this FBX in here, what's the very first thing I need to do?
Apply textures. Apply textures.
Apply textures is fair, right? But I want you to think about scale first, right? Because as long as the scale's right, the movement's going to be right for that animation, okay? Now, if you have a little tiny walker and it's walking like this, it's not going to walk very far, right? Because the scale's off. So when you're looking for animation, right? That's my favorite dad joke. Okay, so left click and drag, right? Because I want it to be commensurate to the size of my avatars. Yes? This AT-AT needs to be AT-AT size. But now, if I want to do a texture very quickly, what's a quick way to the textures folder? I don't even have to go over there to any of that. I can just drag and drop, boom. And now I'm getting AT-AT stuff, right? So there's my body diffuse. Here's my head diffuse, bless you. And I can just start getting my AT-AT to look more authentic. There's my legs diffuse, get in here. And you can see, actually, when you drop some of them, if they do have additional texture opportunities for PBR, IBL, these kinds of things, it'll prompt you. But, done and done. But if I hit play, does this animate already? Because it's an FBX, right? Now, essentially, I don't want that particular animation, and what I can do at any given time is drag and drop that animation back on to itself, okay? Because the thing is it's going to say, hey, FBX import settings, keep original, here's your FPS, this is the motion folder that it's pulling from, and it'll auto-generate to the perform list, and that's important because go ahead and convert all, and now anything that has inherent animation, whether it's swimming, walking, fighting, running, whatever, right there it is, okay? And you can tell it. So like right now, I'm like, oh, I only want the walk and shoot, proceed, okay? And now, when I hit play on my scene, I've got walking and shooting animation, okay? Without me having to do anything. Now, did that move that through the scene?
No.
Therefore, what do we need?
Add movement. Add movement.
Well, it's got movement. What was it? Keyframe, 100%. Why? Because it's a 3D object, is it not? Okay. So, now, if I use this, and I know I've got one at the beginning, okay, so hotkey W and my gizmo. Bless you. Hang on. Is it dusty in here? Seriously, I'll open up the door. Y'all are sneezing today. Make me get a mask on. All right, so basically, we've got that transform. But we also need to add that second keyframe based on this motion, right? Because it's got gait, it's got travel. And if you've already sussed out your scale, your travel should be right, right? So, essentially, I can look at this motion and I can just watch it by clicking play, and you can do this with any FBX, right? But I'm also going to show you that about right there, that's going to be the end of my motion. Can I just drag this guy forward a little bit? Yeah. Because now that I create the kind of walking motion that's nice and slow but looks proper to the distance, yes, because it's a very big object in my scene, right? And that's nice. Because guess what I can do? Can I just go back over to my switcher? Because I've already set up a couple of cameras, and now I've got guys walking out, getting off work, right? When we switch out, and I've got a nice low angle shot that makes that look large and powerful. Okay? So, that is very, very simple stuff. But, this is what I want you to remember. Anything can be saved. Cameras, lights, particles, cameras, anything. Doesn't matter, right? I think I said cameras twice. But props, right? Here's what's up. You literally can come over here to your content manager, and if we're saving something, what tab does that go in? Custom tab, right? So just like you're saving your projects, it goes in custom. But if I come over here to props, okay, and I go to my props folder, let's just say I want to throw this in here, or right click and go create subfolder because I want it to be my Star Wars props. So I'm going to say Star Wars. I recommend using a custom folder because at least it keeps it nice and organized for you. And once you put that in there, you can click into that folder. And now I'm going to say my AT-AT. So I'm going to say AT-AT. And now what was a random FBX on Sketchfab 5 minutes ago is now an iProp. Okay? And that's good because once it's classified as an iProp, it can be utilized in the same way that we utilize everything else for our crowd center. Okay? So, I'm going to mess around with my terrain a little bit. This is an old asset. Let's see if I can pull this off. I'm going to go into my Snowy Mountain. And I'm going to go to that asset here in my scene hierarchy. And we know we can still play around with height scale and things like that and make it look more Hoth, right? Take that down pretty easily. And of course we can generate a nav mesh just by what's in the scene, right? So if I generate a quick nav mesh, it's looking for basically just that geometry. So I want to actually try to convert that terrain back into a static prop so I get the benefit of all of that, all right? And once I do that, then I can generate a nav mesh that sees that geometry as well. Even if I need to go grab newer terrain, that's no problem either. That's a quick grab from Sketchfab as well. Some of the older stuff won't allow you to convert it back. So let's just do that. Let's just go grab a quick snow terrain. Snow, terrain, boom. Quick and easy. That looks pretty Hothy. Let's see if we got an FBX or OBJ here. No, but I can convert that if I want to. That's actually a nice terrain. I won't spend the time doing it with Blender. But that's as easy as just opening that and then exporting that out of Blender. This looks kind of nice. Let's see if we got a OBJ there. Beautiful. We'll use that valley. Now, of course, this is also a way that you don't have to basically settle for the crappy content that's in the content manager. This should always be something that you're aware of, just using the same functionality, but don't lean on the content library because then your stuff's gonna look like everybody else's. And if you can get more bespoke work out of your each module, then the better the chance you have to actually produce really cool stuff. Bless you. Was that another sneeze? I'm gonna start counting, bro. What's going on? Did y'all get on a private Discord and go, we're just gonna sneeze all day and see what he does? Like y'all are messing with me, bro. All right, so got that downloaded. Let's bring that in. Very simple. And really, I want you to be thinking about things like this and just the application of some of these power tools, right? Because you should be able to generate things very quickly and easily and gain a lot of control in that regard for your cinematics, right? Because after that, you're just lensing stuff. You're just lensing action. And you can, of course, have a hero character that if you want to play through the scene or animate through the scene, you can totally do that. And basically, that can be the character that you're following. Have any of y'all ever played Battlefront?
Yeah.
Star Wars Battlefront?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Kind of like that. So, essentially, just drag and drop this OBJ in. And of course, again, it's there, but what do we need to do first?
Scale it.
No, zero it out first.
Zero.
Then scale it, yes. So, it doesn't know the real world size here. And let me just double check with my preview camera. Yep, it's there. Teeny tiny. So we're gonna go ahead and rotate this, and I used what hotkey to get to that? F for the front view, right? So quickly, I know that I can rotate this on my X in -90, right? And now we're on a flat plane. And now I'm going to hold shift, because some of you have heard this note. If you hold shift, it goes times 10, right? So if we hold shift and then use any of our gizmos, we can scale at a much larger rate. Now, this one's got a lot of low poly kind of stuff on it, but we can smooth that and fix that. And I really want this to be super large, so I'm going to zoom out, and I want to kind of have all my action in that valley. And I'm going to also, because I've hit the limit on this, you can see my scale's basically bottomed out at 999. I can reset my scale, and that'll zero that back out to 100% wherever I'm at. Everybody see that? So we've reset 0 to get it to the center, reset scale once you've got it where you need to get larger, okay? And then you can keep going. Go in here and click in that. I see my Star Wars folder. Double click, and here's my prop. Now, I can generate placement if I want. And you know that this is going to get the measles again, but it's going to have green instead of blue. And that indicates that these are props instead of characters. That's all. It's just color coded. And you got to think about it for a second, because it's got a lot of geometry there. But this is a way that you can take a complex scene and litter it with props that are also animated automatically. And that's nice, because it saves you a lot of time, especially if you're trying to lay out something that needs to look like a base, or if you're going with something more mundane, like a factory. You know, prop distribution might be a really nice thing. City street, think about cars, think about street lights, think about trash cans, okay? All these things can be distributed pretty easily. Now, I'm gonna look around here, because again, this is a big model, okay? If I wanted to do this as a zone, I could also do this, and it might be more advantageous. So if you have a very large area, you might want to explore doing it with a zone. But I just want to zoom in here, because really I'm only concerned kind of with the area that I'm going to lens. I don't care about putting props where I'm not going to see them, right? So I can take my amount down. I'm going to take it down to like 10. And I'm also going to bring my random orientation up, and spacing I'm going to bring up quite a bit. And over here. And the spacing is thinking about, because it's going, oh, you got to shuffle this around all this geometry, okay? And that's why it's chugging along there, because it's calculating any of the spacing. But you'll need to do this, especially if you have a large area, to make sure that you're getting where you want. All right. Another way to do this in a more precise way is also to do a zone. And if it doesn't crash out on me right here, I'll show you a zone. And using a volume to just say, hey, just go right over here. Okay. So I might still keep this nav mesh, because I might want to put a bunch of snow troopers or something like that out. But I'm also instead of doing prop distribution that way, going to go create. And scatter, distribute props. It's the same sort of thing. And I'm going to pick my nav mesh once again. It's going to think. I'm not going to click too much. And we'll wait for it to initialize the window. And then basically, once you deploy, all of your saved eye props with your animation are going to automatically be there. And it did respect my new spacing. So I'm going to deploy 10 props. There we go. And if I zoom out here, we'll see where they ended up. And I can always grab out of the actual content library as well and drag and drop. So at any given time, if I wanted another AT-AT just over here kind of behind it, I can always drag that out. And you can see that my scale just went a little crazy there. There's all my AT-ATs. I don't know why that one's being a little nuts. I think my nav mesh just went a little crazy. Hold on a second. So once you hit play on your scene, it'll have all this animation and literally any prompt that you have. I'll go ahead and I'm going to change this to minimal. Will allow you to do this. That way my processor isn't being so taxed. Large poly objects will give you a little bit of lag, so keep that in mind. You can choose to use those. Terrains are typically pretty large poly, right? So keep that in mind. And we'll wait on this. But really, you can use scatter in the same way for props as you can with characters, and it will carry over your animation, which is nice. And there we go, it's loading that texture. And we'll talk a little bit more about finish work as well. But I just wanted you to be aware of prop distribution, and also should you want to use it, accessory distribution is available to you. So if you wanted to put blasters in their hands or whatever, you totally could. All right, so essentially I'm gonna go back to my switcher, and I'm also gonna talk a little bit about LUTs. Who knows what a LUT is? Lights? No, but it's a decent guess. LUTS. It is closer to coloring, but it has a very specific meaning. LUT is an acronym for look up table. Look up table, okay? And it's something that you'll find a lot in film because people use it to do color grading and things like that, okay? So we haven't talked about this so much, but if I wanted to throw a bunch of snow troopers out there on my terrain and have, you know, a nav mesh lens like that, bless you, and then also a pathway lens like this, totally fine. And LUTs can give me kind of a different look and feel without having to go to a video editor. So if you go to your content template, you can go into your stage tab, and also in that stage folder, you'll find some things that are pretty cinematic in nature, like your atmosphere, your lights, your lens flares, your post effects. And our post effects is what we're looking for. So with post effects, essentially you'll have a lookup table folder, and you'll find some pretty common folks in there. Like for example, a hard light or an invert, right? So if I wanted to switch my shader back to high, so you can see all of my diffuse and base colors, and then if I wanted to start playing around with this, I could maybe turn on a hard light or something like that. If I didn't want hard light to invert, right? I could do night effects. If I wanted to darken a scene instantly and choose day for night. You can give it a full-on sort of, sepia tone or things like that get a little bit more dramatic. But you basically can come over into your visual tab, no matter what you're choosing to stack up, And you can go to the fourth option here, the effect option, and you'll see this is actually a layered list. Okay? So, basically, if you come up to the top, you can see that I've got a few stacked up here for my post effects. And I can choose what's in the front and what's in the back, and how much strength that also carries. Question? An HDR map. So HDR maps are found over here inside of your lighting for image-based lighting. Because HDR maps are high dynamic range images and used for illumination. That's literally the definition, right? So if you wanted to overexpose or underexpose based off IBL, then you can use any of these HDRs to do that. So that's already in the scene, but that's a light visual effect versus a overall overlaid visual effect, which is kind of a filter. So, over here in the post effects, you'll see I've got static noise, I've got a color adjust, and I can play around with any of these sort of settings. Like if I wanted to completely gray something out or go completely colored, I could play around with a lot of different sort of finish work without having to spend a lot of time. If I wanted to go completely black and white and bring all that up to the top, so that sets above all of my other adjustments. I can turn things on or off and kind of play around with it. NPR is cool because I can do like paint weight adjustments and really look at those edges. And that also can be supplemented with our Toon Shader. And so if I really wanted to flatten something out and shoot 2D for 3D or 3D for 2D, that's no problem. Anybody ever watch Family Guy?
Yeah.
You ever see a car on Family Guy? Is it a 2D car or a 3D car? Depends. You know, it's funny. Somebody said that exact same thing in Tuesday class. It does depend. But when you have a 3D object that can be moved like a car in a scene and get very precise movement and do a very quick sort of overlay, then you can get 2D for 3D, 3D for 2D. Okay. Oh, we got some crazy prop distribution going on there. But really what I'm looking for Module 2 is just application of these things, okay? And a couple of nice lenses, all right? So yeah, so a crazy one over here coming. And it looks like I've got some unwanted animation on my terrain. That's probably the problem. If you have unwanted animation on something, where do you go? Timeline, 100%, right? Because what's there?
Keyframe.
Road keyframe, right? So I can come over to my scene, and I can go find my, where are you at? Snowy Mountains, there they are. And I can look at that on the timeline very quickly and use fit to window and see where that road keyframe is somewhere in here. Well, maybe not, it's fine. So, I've got some crazy prop distribution animation on those guys. Same thing applies, but maybe I don't want that second keyframe here for this one. So I can delete that one, and I still have that animation over there, and that's nice. And if I wanted to adjust that camera or anything else, it's totally cool. It's very easy to do, but I do want multiple shots just showcasing the application of these tools, okay? And obviously, you know, for something like an AT-AT, I'm gonna want kind of a low angle, right? So think about it cinematically, okay? If you're on a factory floor, probably a high angle, right? If you're lensing action of any kind, that's, you know, the walking or something like that, you probably want to be either tight on it or in the crowd itself. How many of you ever seen a movie where somebody's walking down the street in New York City? Right? Everybody in this room has seen this shot. Do you focus on all the people or do you focus on the person walking?
Person one.
100%. Even if they're surrounded by people and surrounded by action. So think cinematically like that in your crowd set, okay? Because lensing action can just be what it needs to be for this. It does not have to be super creative. Does that make sense to everybody? Cool. So, don't forget, any prop, as long as you save it that has animation with it, will come in with it, okay? So just very quickly, I'll drop another one over here just to show you out of the library. And I'm also going to 86 my nav mesh for now. And I can come back over to custom and go into that props folder. Okay, go into my Star Wars folder. And any of that, whether you're using it as prop distribution or just dragging it and dropping it into the scene, should retain the motion and the animation. Okay? And you can also adjust that, right? So you've got options. Right? Those have some inherent, I know what it is. When I saved it, I didn't save my, I have a Rode keyframe in it when I saved it. You can always get that out too. We won't worry about that right now. Just make sure when you save it, you do it in frame one. I'll probably do it out in space. So, for today, I want you to take the rest of class to just give me NavMesh, give me pathways, show me this in at least 2 or more camera angles, and render 10 seconds of that today. If that is part of your final scene, if I'm saying, hey, my module 2 is going to be Star Wars, great, okay? Because you always can come over here and pop that into the week 8 work in progress and get notes right away, all right? I will help you. Otherwise, work on it all the way up until next week, and be prepared that in week 9, when we come to class, 12:44, this should be full of 24 module 2s, theoretically. Yes? So, essentially, we will go through the peer review next week. And like I said, we'll jump back to some of the stuff that you've already done. We'll talk about this right now. So you've got a good idea of where I want these cameras and how I want this lens, okay? And we'll do that before you guys get started. So obviously Floyd won last week. By the way, dude, you blew everybody out of the water in the Tuesday class. Took them forever to figure out the maze. Pretty good. But they did get it done. So, minding scale, right? It's going to be important. And also negative space or anywhere like that. But you see what I'm seeing here though? Sliding, skating, things like that. These are the points that I'm looking for quality in the animation. So, obviously you've got him on a path. Obviously you want that loop motion instead of an IMD. An IMD will give you proper footsteps, right? If you don't care about it. But if you want precise control, then you have to make sure that that path position animation is commensurate to the distance that's being traveled versus the gait of the motion, okay? A little bit harder than that. I do see evidence of the path animation here, right? I don't have to see the path. I know he's on one. And that's what I'm looking for at least 20 seconds, right, of good lensed animation for that pathway, right? But that's what I'm going to be checking the quality on, all right? So keep that in mind. For showing me last week, that's what's up, and that's fine, because this is the application, but obviously for grading, we're looking for quality work, all right? We got some Stormtrooper, right? What was the first thing I'm gonna say about that Stormtrooper? Sliding a little bit and texture, right? So again, application is fine, but I do see the evidence of the application of that. Now, I do want every one of you to strive for portfolio work, but if you just give me this and make sure that it's quality, that's fine. Then now if it ends up on your demo reel later and it looks like that, and you haven't done anything to it, I'll probably call you out and send your game design portfolio class, not animation class, okay? If I'm teaching you. So, definitely just make sure that when you're applying stuff, or when you're saving stuff, that you're getting the result that you're looking for. This is looking pretty good in terms of gait, right? And we've got, you know, some marching that's done obviously with IMDs, and that gives us more precise foot contact. And I kind of like that it's moving past this camera, but unless I'm trying to sell boots, I'm going to probably bring that shot up a little bit so it's more eye level, okay? So keep that in mind. All right. This is good application. I can see my textures there. I can see the spacing is thought out properly. Nice little Star Wars corridor, just like mine, but definitely negative space, okay? Just fill those shots up. If pushing this camera in, probably would have been a little bit of a better result for that. So keep in mind, when you're thinking about this stuff, just work on your camera angles all the time. You'll get better at it all the time, okay? If that camera was maybe a little bit closer and zoomed into this, that whole scene might be able to be sold and one single prop, okay? Ethan's cool. You got definitely some fantasy stuff going on here. I will also encourage you that if you're going to a kind of a a point with your creative to make sure that everything in the scene certainly accompanies that. This definitely looks like, kind of a medieval corridor, a little bit big for the cobblestone sort of look or brick look, but I'm believing that, and I just need more of that in the scene. And they might would interact a little differently if there was more obstacles. This one's one of my faves, Terminators. I love it. I love this scene. I think the scene looks good, and do you notice it's a full frame? How many of y'all ever had art teachers in high school? Ever take art class? Anybody? I took a lot of it. One of the rules that probably the best art teacher I ever had gave me was fill the page. Edge to edge, right? You ever hear that from an art teacher? Edge to edge. Same rule applies. And that looks much more rich, and even though this camera could use one more keyframe maybe it goes over here on the old one a little bit, focuses on it a little out, so you see all the ones that have the decent motion, they're walking out, they're figuring it out, and the old one's over here confused. Something like that. It doesn't have to be a story, okay? You do not have to tell a story with it, but I love that the avatar choice in this and the scene work together. And really, I believe that as a combination. Now, not a bad candidate for a LUT maybe, right? Or some polish work, make it look a little better. A little depth of field here, right? Probably really enhance that. And I gave a note about the Terminator. Now, you've got uniform marching here, and that's looking good. The only thing that's missing here is bah, 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 right? And that feels right. This camera gets a little wonky at the end though, right? And I might delete a couple of the guys that sit down. Because is that the easiest way to throw a sim that you don't like out? Just delete it. You don't have to live with it. Everything else looks right about that until they sit down. So just kill those. But Ian pulled off marching, and that's not super easy. Okay, so well done there. And what I would do is I would go ahead and if I were going to play around with this, I would go back to that camera, mark those keyframes, and if you want to arrive here, just do another camera. Just do another camera and switch. Okay, switch, don't move. For that. Okay, Brian's got Toon Goons. Lots of Toon Goons. Application is here, and evidence of a path for sure. But, definitely would like to see more cohesion between scene and character, So, if we go back to something like this, I believe that these avatars belong in that scene, right? This is the same application, just broken, right? Visually, but I see it. And Canon got me Squid Game. And to that point, I think I just crashed Discord. So, essentially, all I'm looking for is just a couple of custom camera angles that showcase both nav mesh and pathways. 10 seconds this week. Prop distribution's great if you want to use that. Oh, there we go. Camera's popped off. And to the same point I just made, scene and characters go together, right? It's Squid Game. I get it right away. So make those good creative decisions for yourself, for your portfolio, and I'll promise you your portfolio will look better because of it. All right? Can you give me a bunch of actor core stuff or Toon Goons? Yeah, you can. Should you? Probably not. Okay? So go ahead and either be just throwing me application stuff, that's fine. That's pretty low hanging fruit, doesn't take a lot of time. But if you're working on your scenes and you're working on your portfolio stuff and it's getting closer to looking at like fully composed shots with characters and functionality and movement that seems like it goes together, you're doing it right, in my opinion. Okay? So give me that this week, and I will spend time today to come around and basically help everybody out. And we'll get through these last few. So if you don't have an idea yet, we will take some time today to get through that. I like this camera angle a lot better because it's in the action. And Noah's exploring some other motion, right? Scene looks pretty good. Characters look pretty good. Starting to believe that, right? Camera, it's okay. That last keyframe bugs me a little. But this is looking okay. I'll tell you one thing that will enhance this scene in a single click. Volumetric lighting. So you can actually have some rays coming in there. So you can actually see that exterior really is bright. But super cool. Alan took the circle path. Okay. I'm gonna bring it in. Empty scene. Okay. Drag it wherever. Doesn't matter. I can come over and go to my zero out. That zeroes out my XYZ. And I can also use hotkey F so I can see that map. And if I look at my grid, which is hotkey Control G, I can see that that is very small and also not oriented the right way. So I use hotkey E with it selected to rotate this 90 degrees on the X, like so. And it's actually a -90. And you can determine that very easily just by using that hotkey and then the gizmo. And seeing that, hotkey R for then our scale. Hold shift and drag that up, okay? Now, again, you want to scale based on your proportion of your avatars, okay? And this one, like I said, is very, very, very high poly. So, when we do the nav mesh, basically, you probably want to do this early on and not with your full high shader on, so switch down to minimal. And go ahead and generate this with a small cell size, like 10, and go ahead and generate that map. Now, if I want to put stormtroopers all over this, I can go to create and scatter and generate crowd. And for my actor pool, I just want to go grab my custom stormtrooper here that I've done. That's actually saved on my desktop. Right here is our stormtrooper. So I've got an actor pool here, and I'm going to throw some IMDs on him so I can just simulate that instead of having to animate. And I'm going to go to here and crowd sim walk males, find a couple of different ones. I'm going to go ahead and select open, and then I can use pick object once again, and then click on my nav mesh and wait, because obviously right now it's very large. Oh, sorry. You can also go from the top. And here, our generate crowd option gives us that right back, and it doesn't forget what our actor pool or our IMDs are. And again, I'm going to pick that object, generate here, and I'm going to wait for a second, let it think. And now I'm going to go ahead and deploy my actors. And these are going to be really big because I didn't suss out my scale first, but you'll see. And I'm only going to do, I guess it's doing 20, so we'll let that kind of calculate. And for that geometry, it's really looking at every one of those faces that nav mesh just generated. And you can see that on the blue lines. So if it's a really intricate nav mesh, you'll see that that's kind of how that's going to work. But now I've got all those deployed, and I can go ahead and close that. And now I've got them kind of everywhere, and I'm still on my minimal, so I'm going to switch back over to my medium so you can kind of see some of the other maps there. And now if I go to Motion Director and just hit Start or Play, it's going to start processing all 20 of those avatars and all 20 of those motions. And essentially, once that happens, we're going to select OK. So switch to Motion Director mode. And now they're going to all start trying to move. And I'm piloting one. But they're all kind of populating under that. And it's fine because we can still generate all the movement. And then we can move this prop down should we need to. Okay? You see they're all moving under there. We can also record on MD controls So I can go ahead and hit stop. And if I wanted to record all of them, I would just select them all using shift select from the top to the bottom and select record and then hit start. Now, we haven't talked a ton about a bunch of the behavior options here, but that's where you have a lot of the different behavior options between, like, how long do you idle? How long do you wait before you walk?
Yeah.
All these things are here on those slider controls. And then once you hit play again, let it process, and it will go ahead and it'll start thinking through all of it, and it'll start moving accordingly. But really, that's how you can get a, complex nav mesh with a lot of geometry and a lot of characters kind of dispersed or props pretty fast.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you like make it like the map bigger? Because you gotta scale down the stormtroopers.
Yeah. No, you definitely can make the map bigger. I just didn't. Again, I kind of broke my own rule. Bring in whatever avatar you're working with first.
Okay.
Suss out your scale.
Okay.
Then do your nav mesh.
Okay. Okay.
Cool.
Nice.
You just need to have that downloaded and extracted to a local source, right? So it's on your machine, not still in a zip file. And so here's my AT here that came down from Sketchfab, and of course from Sketchfab. Essentially, I'm just searching that, so even if I just said AT, I'm probably gonna find that, maybe not. Let's go for Star Wars. AT, it's better. And I'm looking for anyone that has animation already on it. This one's not the same one, but it's different, doesn't matter. As long as I can see that animation, I can also look at all the other animations that are associated with it. And this is more like the Lego Star Wars one. But all you have to do at that point is make sure that you can download. Okay, so don't fall in love with ones that you can't download, and if you use downloadable, it'll make sure that you're getting only the ones that you can actually get. And just find whatever you're looking for. This one, I think, is the one that I actually use. And so you can see it's a little bit more of the traditional in-game walker. And of course I can see all of the ones that have animation, and this one only has the walk and shoot, okay? And this is important because when I show you bringing that back in, right? If I drag and drop this into a scene, just boom, I'll just drag and drop it directly on it. It brings in the FBX geometry, okay? So our geometry is here, right? And if it's got preset animation on it, all you have to do is hit play.
Okay.
But that's not the preset animation I want on it.
Yeah.
Because I don't want it to die, I want it to walk. So what you have to do is come back over and drag that FBX back onto itself. You see the bounding box up here? Drop that, and it's going to say, oh, this is your motion that's in that FBX. You want that? And you say, yes, convert all of those. And then it gives you your list of whatever animations it has available. Okay? So now I want it to be armature walk and shoot. So I proceed, right? And it says okay. And now you can see that my FBX does what I want it to. The cool part about that is once you do that, then you can come over and go to content and save it as a prop. Okay, because you need it as an iProp to use the prop distribution in the same way that Scatter does. So make sure that you have a custom folder. So for example, I've already right-clicked and created a subfolder, but I call that Star Wars. And here's my one AT-AT. I can save another one. Call this AT-AT2. Right, and now I've got another bespoke prop that at any given time I can just drag in as many as I want, or I can use it as prop distribution, and they all are going to animate automatically. Question?
Can I create a block in the nav mesh that like people can't go through?
Yes. So let me look really quick.
Professor Martin. I'll wait till you get your thing.
Hold on 1 second.
Yep.
Second.
Applying the textures is
Yep.
the same thing as go with the stormtrooper, right? Or stormtrooper.
100%.
report,
So,
right?
like, for example, if I wanted to throw the body diffuse on it, right? I could just start throwing the diffuse maps on it.
Oh.
But let's say I wanted to get that normal map on it too, right? Then I could come over and just start dragging that into the normal map channel for that and call normal. But yes, any of that, like for example, the head, you know, I'm just dragging and dropping it onto the portion of the model or the geometry, so legs, that kind of thing. That'll auto apply over here for you, or inversely, you could always double click on your base color and navigate to any of that. So you can always go over here and assign it that way, no right or wrong, just different options. Okay, so at the end of the day, it should be very, very simple to get props in there that are animated should you want, and any props can be used as long as they are eye props.